students will know. All of those who can hear the sound of my voice, let me hear you clap once. If you can hear me, let me hear you clap twice. If you can hear me, let me hear you clap 3 times. Very good, very good. Now give yourselves a round of applause. You are beautifully attired. I am loving the uniforms, and I thank you for being such an attentive audience. I want to start off by just acknowledging the organizers of this great event and say thank you once again to the previous panel, for they have set the stage, and we will continue to build on the foundation that has already been set. We are delighted to be here with you today as we work towards achieving that common, loftier goal. And today the goal is suicide prevention. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Dr. Desdemona Curtis Downs, and I am a part of the dynamic Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Service at the Sandilands Rehabilitation Center. Now, we have heard a lot about what can be done in the area of suicide prevention, but I want to take a pause and organize the information a little bit here. Organization is a very key component to remembering, so students, this is specifically for you. Like you, we in medicine tend to organize ourselves in stages. So we also have a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary levels of care, similar to the way you're organized in schools. Primary prevention. I'm going to start off by asking a trivia, and if you know the answer to the question, raise your hand, and another member of my dynamic team will be able to bring the microphone to you to see if you know the answer to this. This is a very old saying, so I'm going to see who's paying attention to their grandparents. An ounce of prevention is worth a blank of cure. This is for the students. I saw some hands go up, but they weren't in school uniforms. I see a hand. An ounce of prevention is worth a blank of cure.
Pound.
Awesome, very good. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. One of my dynamic team members will provide you with a little token of appreciation for your participation today. That's correct. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So today, we are going to try and shift our talk along the continuum of prevention. A lot of what you have heard relates to an individual who is either experiencing a suicidal thought or engaging in suicide behavior. Our adolescent team is going to focus on moving that continuum towards primary prevention, and that is intervening before there is a thought, there is an idea, there is an action, there is a plan, and that's primary prevention. So we're going to shift the talk along the continuum of primary prevention. So I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce other members of the dynamic team who are here today to guide the panel discussion. So first we have Dr. Annalise Richards. Wave. There you go. Dr. Annalise Richards is a child and adolescent psychiatrist. She is the director and the lead physician of our team. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we will be leaning heavily on her guidance today. I think next to her is Dr. Thomas Smith. Yes. Dr. Thomas Smith is another one of our psychiatrists. He has been supporting mental health for children and adolescents in the Bahamas for many, many years, and he is an integral member of this child and adolescent psychiatry team. We also have Mrs. Erinique Ingram Newmoss. She's our team's psychologist and works closely with the physicians to provide assessments and develop and execute our treatment plans. We are also blessed to have a nursing representative. That our team could not function effectively without our nurses. They are the backbone of any medical institution, and we are no different. So we are pleased to have participating with us, Nurse Sarah Frith, who works along with nursing education and the adolescent unit. And we also have on our panel this morning, Ms. Marguerite Beckford, Ms. Beckford is our health social worker. In child and adolescent psychiatry, we do not treat children in isolation. We treat them in the context of their families, their communities, and those supporting adults around them. And for this work, our social worker is crucial. We also have a few roving members of the team. I will not leave out Ms. Shante LaCroix, who's from our occupational therapy department. She will be walking around and assisting with microphone and message cards. And we also have Dr. Amanda Wiley-Waldron. And we also have Ms. Misha Roll, who is our recreational therapist. Okay, so now I will allow, these members will be walking around with discussion cards. Dr. Wiley, do you have the cards? How we would like to engage. We want this to be an interactive session. We are going to ask the audience members, if you have a question, to raise your hand. One of our team members will come around with a discussion card and a pencil. We'll ask you to write your questions down, and then they will be relayed, and we'll invite the panelists to address them. Now, we may not get to every single question, but we will certainly try. And where possible, I will combine similar questions for the sake of time. While that's being done, I will invite the panel members to give a brief, and by brief panel, less than 2 minutes, description of how the work they engage in specifically addresses the issue of suicide prevention among youth and adolescents. We can begin with Dr. Richards.
Good morning again. So Dr. Downs has set the stage. Classroom is in session, okay? So I have the honor and the pleasure of working with this fantastic team on a daily basis. And I even have a greater honor and pleasure of working with many of the children and adolescents of our country. And the reality is, these persons, the children and adolescents in this, the adolescents in this crowd today, they are the future of this country. As Dr. Downs mentioned, this morning we are coming with a message of hope, because the reality is most suicides are preventable. So this morning, the child and adolescent team will be talking about prevention. Inadvertently, we will talk about some of the factors associated with risk, but really and truly we want to hang our hats on the fact that most suicides are preventable. And the work that we do, we seek to boost every adolescent we come into contact with, every child we come into contact with. We seek to boost their inherent ability to be resilient, because life does not say that you will not experience negative circumstances. When you are resilient, you have the ability to bounce back from negative circumstances. And so that is what we aim to do. So as part of the medical lead for the child and adolescent team, yes, our job is to assess risk, assess for suicidality, but the even greater task we have is prevention. And that is what we hope to talk about this morning.
Oh, lovely. So hi again, Erin Ingram Moss. I am the child and adolescent psychologist of this team. And basically, my job is to help with treatment and intervention of our kids. And I do say our kids because that's how I feel each and every one of the kids that come to the ward are. That's how special they are to all of us. So we deal with assisting in, like Dr. Richard said, prevention. But once they are with us, we really focus on trying to assist with building resilience, trying to provide proper therapeutic care for them, and trying to help them see that, like Dr. Richard says, there is more beyond the current circumstance you might be dealing with. So, like she said, we do this every day, and we have a blast doing it, and it's a wonderful experience. So, thank you.
Good morning once again. I am Nurse Fred, and the pleasure of working with the Child and Adolescent Unit, as well as education. And from a nursing perspective, Dr. Richards already said that youth are our future. So we work in cohesion as a team in order to treat our clients. And from the nursing perspective, we not only, as persons like to say, give injections and medication, but we also work along with our clients to provide education. We also provide that psychological support, and we, in cohesion with the rest of the team, we also provide coping mechanisms and all the things that those persons need to be able to function, and as well as provide resources for these clients as well.
Hi, good morning. Dr. Smith here. So there's a saying, and everybody knows it, it takes a village to raise a kid. And nothing is more true than, or perhaps nothing is more vital than that truth today. So what's in this village? The village is made up of schools. Schools are run by teachers. The village is made of church. The village is made of other homes with parents, right? And so if you really look at it, those are the major influences or where kids are most likely to get their support from. Like the team is saying, we're focused on prevention. And so a lot of our work really deals with partnering with those major village members, whether it's the school teacher, whether it's the parents, or perhaps your spiritual religious leader. All of those play a vital part in our aim to prevent any kind of mishap like suicide. And so I'm happy to see that all of the students are here. I'm even more happy to see that there are some teachers here, because it's important that the teachers know, recognize, and are aware that kids do have some issues that can cause them to be, in harm or develop harm. So I hope that this is a learning session for all of us, and I invite and look forward to your questions.
So I'm a social worker, and so my role on the team is, as Dr. Smith and everyone said, that we are an interdisciplinary team. So that means when a child comes in, and once the child is in our care, there are a number of different aspects of the child that we look at, because the child is in the family, they're also in the schools and all the different services. So that means whether they're involved with the court, any other services they're involved in. So once we make that assessment, then we go, and in order to get a perfect view of what the child is going through, or whether it be protective factors, any of those situations that the child is going through, we go to get a view of what's going on everywhere with the child. We look at what is strengths for the child, and we also bring those in. When it comes to the family, we bring the family in. We teach the family about how to identify the risk factors, how to identify if their children are being, if their child is probably showing depression, anything that is going on. We teach them how to identify those risk factors, and then we teach parents with children how to have better relationships so the family could be strengthened and be more cohesive.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in, because I am getting some very interesting, very important questions. And as I said, I want to get through as many of them as I can. This first question is, this is a kindred spirit. We are at the heart of it. We're going to get right to the beginning. And the question asks, at what age are we able to begin effectively, I'm going to add, preventing, and the question says evaluating and diagnosing. So I'm going to repeat that. At what age are we able to begin effectively preventing, evaluating, and diagnosing adolescents? Adolescents. Children, I'll add children. You don't mind if I add children. Children and adolescents.
So, and we're going to make this interactive, so I encourage any of the other team members to jump in and interrupt and complete a thought. And I think everybody that works on this panel knows exactly what I'm going to say. I am going to say that the age that we start, the age that we can, the age that we're able to, actually starts in utero, right? Because honestly and truly, The impact of a child's mental health and what happens to a child starts from that child is in the womb. The way that the mother is taking care of herself, the way that the mother is managing her stress, the way that the mother is interacting with important persons in her life. Really and truly, a special niche of child and adolescent psychiatry is dyadic work, and that is working on parent-child dynamics. And there is this paper that I always talk about to anybody that rotates through child and adolescent psychiatry. It's called The Ghost in the Nursery. And it speaks to the fact that we all carry all of our life experiences with us. From children are in the womb, they are experiencing, they are living what their mother is living. So really and truly, it begins in utero. Now, as far as our children and adolescents go, even before children are verbally able to interact, they display what they're thinking and the way that they're feeling through play and interaction. And so there is no, as far as I'm concerned, limit in terms of when, how, who, because all of us have ways in which we communicate, and that starts from in the womb.
I absolutely agree. And I think most of our team really focus on early intervention. I've had a few conversations like this and presentations before. And whenever I do, I start with this simple stat, which is 1 in 5 kids have, within a given year, a mental illness. And then I go, and these are true. By the time the age of 14, 50% of all adult mental illness are present in childhood. By the time the child is 25, by the person is 25, 75% of all mental illness seen have all started in childhood. So it's very important, the need for early intervention, right? And when we say early intervention, like Dr. Downs had pointed out, it's basically trying to prevent, then trying to limit, and then trying to sort of reclaim things that have been lost. So this year, we can say this is the beginning of our trying to prevent bad things from happening. And so sooner or later, we're going to get into how teachers, parents, and students, your friends, could help and prevent bad things from happening to yourself or from other persons.
I'm so glad Dr. Smith brought up the stats fact, because I have a lovely stat myself. So for the first 1,000 days of life is when the brain develops the most. That means from age 0 up until 5, that is when the brain has the most activity going on. That is the sweet spot to really get a child involved in the more positive things, to really test their growth, to really challenge them to do better and to do more. And I think that's really important for teachers, but also students who might have siblings that are young, or parents who might be new parents. The first 1,000 days of life are the most critical days of life, which means also that those are the days where you should be protecting them most. Now, don't get me wrong, children should be protected throughout their entire lives, but between the ages of 0 and 5, the first 1,000 days, that is the prime spot to really see valuable growth in our children.
I would have to agree with Dr. Ingram Moss. The earlier, the better. That's how I would say it. Especially in terms when you have little kids, helping them to understand and deal with disappointment. Mommy, I can't get that toy. Or maybe you went to school and didn't get the grade that you wanted. Building those coping mechanisms early aid in prevention in the future. It may seem simple then, oh, I can't get the toy or the Kellys, but teaching them disappointment, mommy can or daddy cannot get it right now, and they learn to handle disappointment, and for the future, you're already building those skills in order to prevent suicide and thoughts of suicide in the future as well.
Thank you very much, panel. When we talk about disease, illness, and disorders, we often talk about them in terms of risk factors and protective factors. These next two questions speak specifically to some of the risk factors that might be present in our communities. And the question asks, why do people tease you because of the way you look? And why do kids who get bullied think it's okay to pick on others?
I know this is something we as a team talk about a lot because when we look at risk factors for suicidality, especially in adolescents, peer interactions are extremely important. Extremely important. And the topic of bullying is something that as a team we encounter, like Ms. Ingram is saying, we just talked about yesterday at length because it's something that we encounter often. And that can often be one of the risk factors and triggers for suicidality in adolescents. Remember now, developmentally, where adolescents are, they're all about trying to figure out where they fit in. So peer relationships are in some ways more important than relationships with parents. And so being able to master peer relationships or feel included is very important. Whoever asked that question asked an excellent question, and I'm still trying to fully understand myself, but there are several reasons or elements to why persons become bullies. And a lot of times, the bullied becomes the bully. And not just being bullied by other kids, being bullied by people who are supposed to, as Ms. Ingram said, love and care for them. And I always say to parents and teachers and caregivers, we always have to be mindful how we speak to children, because the words that we use become the voice in their head. And so if we are saying, you're so stupid all of the time, you're so dumb, why are you always doing stupid things, that becomes what they hear. And so a child being bullied oftentimes may morph into the bully, because now if I'm the bully, I'm in control, and I can control the hurt that comes to me. So that's a wonderful question. And I think as a society, when we get better at controlling that narrative and learning how to help our kids, because right now, I don't think we're doing a great job at that. So when we get better at learning how to do that, we can help kids communicate and express their emotions and feelings in ways that are healthier.
Yeah, and just to further add to that, bullying is a big risk factor for developing low self-esteem that could spiral into having depressive symptoms or even anxiety, right? We know that when a person self-harms or presents to the A&E or accident emergency for a suicidal attempt, that's the end of a long series of process that had happened many days before then, sometimes months before then, right? And the unfortunate thing is also a story of failed intervention. It's a story of where that person would have been suffering until they presented for so long without having anyone to speak to, anyone to intervene, or anyone to make whatever fears or trouble or crisis they're dealing with to stop. So when we're talking about risk factors like Dr. Richards is saying, bullying is a major thing because as kids, image is everything, correct? You have to wear the right clothes, you have to wear the right backpack, right? You have to wear the right haircut, you have to look a certain kind of way. And unfortunately, sometimes you can't help the way how you look, right? Or you can't help the way how you speak. But there should be, and you must know, for those who feel that they're looking funny or talking funny, that the world is a very big place. And there's room for people like you. And there's many more people like you. And I hope that the teachers are listening, because there should be an absolute campaign against anti-bullying and making it really a big part of the educational experience.
Okay, one of the things the Department of Social Services can do as well in the schools is we can come in and have a conversation with your schools and talk about bullying and because like they said, that is definitely one of the biggest risk factors. And so we can definitely come into the schools if you feel like, but I know bullying is a big part almost everywhere. Because no matter what student we speak to, like we say, this is very, very prevalent. So just know that that is a service that we can provide, and come in and just speak with your students on bullying.
All right, great. Thank you. I have two sets of questions. One, I want to start with, again, utilizing our model of primary, secondary, and tertiary. The questions are, what are the sources of primary, secondary, and tertiary help? So where can you access help along this continuum? And I want to add to that, what role do parents play in prevention of suicides? Similarly, how can we help parents understand their child and know when depressive symptoms are being expressed? And another associated question would be, what are some of the effective communication styles or techniques to use in suicide prevention when working with adolescents? So rolled up in one,
that's a
we're
big
talking,
one, right?
rolled up in one, we're going to be talking about primary, secondary, and tertiary intervention, where those sources are, and we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the protective factors and ways in which parents can involve themselves in suicide prevention for adolescents.
So what I will do is I'll take a small bite of the first part, and then I'll share it around, right?
Yeah, and I can take the small bite of the next part.
Okay, good job.
I got you. Okay.
All right, so when we talk about primary, secondary, and tertiary intervention, we're basically following the way how we do medicine, which is prevention, early detection, and then limiting the amount of damage being done. So that's the prevention would be universal care, primary. Early detection would be secondary, and limiting the amount of damage done would be tertiary care or reclaiming. So we could think about primary and universal care like vaccines, right? You get vaccines when you don't want to get a particular illness. In mental health or in psychiatry, that's hardly present, basically, because if we really want to start prevention, we should have those in utero kind of services, right? Before it starts. What we found, though, is that we tend to focus more on the early detection. And here in the Bahamas, unfortunately, we only have one community mental health center, right? So there isn't really a specific safe space designed specific for young people, which we should have. Yes, that's the plug. We need more spaces where psychiatric service in the community can be had for kids looking for mental health services. Those persons coming in that area would be able to be screened for mental illnesses, depressive symptoms that Ms. Ingram will be enumerating in a minute, right? And then if those illnesses or symptoms or complaints are serious enough and can be managed by counseling or talk therapy and would require further specialized care, then they're pretty much transferred into the tertiary care in Sandilands or in child and adolescent unit, where in-hospital care requires intensive treatment, sometimes psychiatric medication and psychological therapies. But primary is the universal prevention. Secondary is having satellite clinics or specific clinics in the community where kids can come in and talk to their counselors, therapists, or see primary care physicians who, if they're not able to resolve those issues in a timely and effective manner, then shoot it up to the specialists where hospitalization might be had.
So before Ms. Ingram jumps in, just to add to what Dr. Smith has said and support what Dr. Smith has said, especially because we have this unique opportunity of having many students and teachers and community personnel in the room. As part of primary prevention, one of the things that as a country we need to get better at doing is providing the education. Because I find a lot of our adolescents, and you guys are asking some very emotionally intelligent questions, which is absolutely fantastic, which tells us what we already know, which is that you guys are thinking about a lot of things. But if we can find a way to get more mental health education into schools, kids can be more empowered about what they know and what they understand and how they can seek help. That is not happening enough. And so I urge my teachers in the audience to continue to advocate for that to be included, because it empowers you to empower them, and that's prevention.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Richards. Now, if I remember correctly, the question was, how can parents see when their children are feeling suicidal? That's about the gist of it? Okay, so there are a few...
Or showing signs of depression. How can they
okay,
see
great.
early warning signs?
Early warning signs are showing signs of depression. So for our parents and even our teachers in the audience, when you see that your child is behaving differently from their normal baseline, which you expect day to day, that is a good sign. So for example, if they are more withdrawn when they're usually more talkative and engaged, if they seem more sad when usually in the morning they're very excited, if they are deciding to stop talking to their friends, if they decide to stop hanging out with their family, when usually that is their behavior, those are your signs. Other signs can include if they start to give away things that they love, if they start to show less interest in the things that they love, if they decide, if they might be having nightmares, if they aren't sleeping well, if they aren't eating well, all of these are signs of depressive symptoms and maybe something even more serious. And one of the major things I do want to bring out, like I said in the beginning, behavioral changes are a good indicator that something is wrong, something is off. So whatever you're paying attention to your child's behavior is incredibly important as a teacher and as a parent. Once you see they deviate from what you know is normal, it's time to have a sit-down conversation. And even after that, if you see it's not improving, then it's time to reach out to one of us. Does that answer it? Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Ingram, I'm wondering if you can continue, because that's a big setup,
Okay.
to talk about how students who have friends who are self-harming,
Okay.
how they can continue to support them.
How students can help support their
Yeah,
friends?
given all of those identifiers of
Okay.
when things are getting bad for their friend, how they might be able to speak with them and support them in sort of kind of first aiding kind of way.
Okay, like a psychological first aid kind of. So for students who might see that their friends are behaving differently, I think the first good step is to have a conversation too. A quick conversation, I wouldn't say quick, but honest, candid conversation can really help a lot of people and can change things more than you know. So the conversation is the first step, but then it's important too to know when you're out of your depth in saying that some things that you won't be able to handle. So for example, if your friend is struggling because they are stressed out about school, that's a pretty easy one. You guys can study together. If they're stressed about a relationship, that might be something that's easy to handle as well. But if it's something a little bit more serious, you might have to say within yourself, this is more than I can handle by myself, and my next suggestion would be to ask for help from a trusted adult. So somebody who you trust with your emotions, who you feel safe with, a safe person, I would say the next step is to go to that trusted adult and let them help. Do not be afraid to ask for help. That's what the adults in your life are for, and do not be afraid as adults to ask for more help. Because even as adults, you might seem, even though you might have you have more capabilities than the child to assist, you might have to realize at some point too that you are out of your depth. And if this is too heavy for you, even as a trusted adult, please do not be afraid to ask for help from mental health professionals. That is what we're here for. We love to answer questions. So please come and ask for help as you need to.
I just want to add, because I think that's a really, really important point, because there's this myth that feels as if somebody is talking about suicidality, it's taboo. Because if you ask about suicide, they're going to commit suicide. That's a myth. Because really and truly, sometimes asking a person who's having those thoughts that one phrase, are you okay? What can I do to help? Shows them that somebody actually cares. And so like Ms. Ingram say a lot of times, and I know as teachers, God bless you guys, I know we task y'all with a lot because y'all are tasked with being mommy, daddy, teacher, counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist. But I think making sure that you know your students. That's the most important thing, because when you know your students, you can tell when there's a deviation from baseline. And you may start with asking that one question, are you okay? Or that second question, what can I do to help you right now? Just to be able to get information to guide you on the next steps. But don't be afraid to ask that question, and I think that's really, really important.
One of the things that's my responsibility is dealing with parents and children for better communication, because communication is very, very, very important. There are a number of parents, once children decide that they are suicidal, parents, the first thing is that they are attention seeking, or they're only looking for attention. I paying all the bills, what problems do you have? You know, your responsibility is just to go to school, but it's not as simple as that. We talked about bullying, and now we see things with cutting. The minute parents see cutting, that is something that as a society we're just getting to be able to understand, because it's so pervasive. And some families, when it happened for the first time or it's continuing to happen, it is something very fearful for the parents. So I know sometimes they don't have the skills to deal with that or understand that. So that's a part of what I do, to sit them down, talk about how important it is to communicate with your child. If your child is withdrawing, you see they are depressed, you see they are deviating from what they normally do or things that they're interested in, have a conversation with them. Listen to them. You know, one thing with this culture, it's, you know, I'm the parent and this is the way I deal with it. And so a lot of times children are not heard because they don't think that children should be able to voice to them how they feel. But it's very, very important that parents now have a change of heart on. You know, there are different parenting skills that you can learn in order to protect your children. If you sit down with them in the daytime and say, well, how did school go today? Especially if your child is showing that they're depressed, listen to them, take it serious, and then when you feel like, okay, you can reach out to us, and then we'll provide you with more skills on how to do that, or we'll provide you with the assistance needed. But really, as parents, we need to, as a society, to listen to our children more and to build better relationships with them.
Okay, I'll be brief in the essence of time. I see you looking. But I think someone had asked how parents can communicate with kids. When we talk about communicate, a lot of persons just look at how we speak to our kids, but communication is also verbal and nonverbal at the same time. So in communicating with our kids about suicide prevention, we have to be aware that when we communicate, knowing the information first and foremost. Second of all, looking at the age range of our kids. You're not gonna go to a small child and be like, oh, using these big words. You have to make it almost sometimes playful for them to understand and grasp that concept of suicide prevention. And also non-verbal in terms of your communication, the way you sit, the way you stand. If you as a parent, if I go to my child now and my hand fall up, we could talk about suicide prevention, they're gonna feel apprehensive, they're gonna be afraid, and they're not gonna open up in that conversation. So even though you're talking to your child about suicide prevention, how they may be feeling, they wanna also see that you understand and that you care about their feelings and what you're trying to teach them in the same moment.
Thank you, thank you. All right. I have been told that we are out of time, but I begged and pleaded and bribed, and we've gotten a few more minutes. Okay, so I have a few more questions. I'm going to try and get through them, but we will not be able to take any more questions. This question is related to the outreach activities that are conducted. Specifically, it asks about child and adolescent team, but really we are a part of a bigger organization, the Sandilands Rehabilitation Center and Psychiatry Services, and we're organized in a way that allows us to make the best use of those resources. So the question asks, is it possible for the child and adolescent team to partner with organizations such as Royal Bahamas Police Force, Urban Renewal, and Social Services to go out into the community to reach children? So I will field that one as an honorary panel member and just remind you what I said earlier at the beginning. We organize our services for efficient use in primary, secondary, and tertiary. So primary and secondary prevention refers to persons who are experiencing symptoms. They may have a diagnosis, but they are being treated in their communities. And tertiary refers to when these disorders become to the point where hospitalization is required. And so the child and adolescent team focuses more heavily on inpatient care, persons who need to be admitted to hospital for treatment and services. And we rely on our partners in the community, such as the Community Counseling and Assessment Center, and even our pediatrician colleagues to help us and do our community work, and that happens in our clinics and in our schools and in organizations. However, if you feel as though the child and adolescent team is more suited to an event or cause that you are championing, if I'm saying that correctly, please feel free to reach out to our administration through our PR department and Mr. Valier. I saw her in the room. She can wave if she can hear me. But there she is in the back. Reach out to our PR department and you can request as necessary. This next question speaks to the preventative measures that are available in the primary and secondary settings. What are the preventative measures or initiatives that are in place that can be accessed outside of the Sandilands Rehabilitation Center?
Can start and anybody can jump in. So in terms of preventative measures, Dr. Downs alluded to the fact that Sandilands works under an umbrella, and Community Counseling and Assessment Center is one of the key resources, as well as the Child and Adolescent Psychiatry team. We also have an outpatient clinic that we run on a weekly basis. And so in terms of prevention, CCAC, when you identify children or adolescents that might be having some struggles either with coping or the way that they're feeling, being able to connect those children or adolescents with therapy services is something we try to kind of coordinate. As well as Dr. Downs mentioned, I mean, this is the child and adolescent team, so you can imagine, you know, as Dr. Downs mentioned, trying to make sure that we are being as effective as we can with providing assistance and providing resources. But there are times when we do provide talks, presentations to agencies, organizations in the community to assist them with kind of boosting skills, et cetera. And I know that social services is one of the organizations we work very closely with through the children's homes. When children and adolescents are admitted, we develop relationship with schools. We have relationship with some of the schools in the community, and that's part of what we try to do to promote the primary prevention interventions.
Okay, so as part of what social services does provide, she spoke about CCAC. So at CCAC, drugs is one of the risk factors for suicide. So we have treatment for drugs, we have drug group, we have individual group, we have family therapy. We also have the probation department that also has therapy going on, and then officers that can actually come within the home and work directly with the family to deal with some of the issues that are going there, and then to definitely also, they just spoke to me recently about the fact that they have a team of persons that are now offering groups after school that will help parents deal with issues and actually offer individual therapy.
All right, we are completely out of time, and I know I did not get to all of your questions. Members of the team will be around for a few moments following the panel discussion, and so some of you had sent up personal questions relating to your personal situations, and if you are able to pull one of us aside, tag one of us, we'll be happy to hear and give guidance. But we are completely out of time, and I hope that there will be a future opportunity for us to explore these questions in a more personal arena. So to the teachers and the clinicians in the room, let's make that a reality. Okay, so we do want to provide contact information for those persons who wish to reach out to us. You can use the Child and Adolescent Unit, the contact for our services 364-9682, and that is a number directly to the ward. You will reach any member of the team, and if we are not able to directly assist, we will certainly be able to give guidance as to how that assistance can be sought. You can also use contact at the Community Counseling and Assessment Center, and that's 323-3293, 323-3293. For emergency circumstances, you can also reach out to the Bahamas Psychological Association. They have a beautiful website, and they are available for crisis management, and the number listed is 356-0039, 356-0039, as well as the Bahamas Crisis Center, and the number is 328-0922, 328-0922. And did I leave out any numbers? Okay. So those are our emergency contacts. We also have a member from Adolescent Health.
Adolescent Health Center.
Adolescent Health Center, yes. Who would like to make a comment?
Okay, my name is Latasha Damianos. I am nursing officer 2 and a psychiatric mental health nurse as well as a midwife. And I work at Adolescent Health Center. There we liaise with CCAC and we provide talk therapy, counseling services, and we go into the schools. So we mostly deal with a lot of drug addiction, suicide preventions, and we're able to liaise with CCAC. So when our clients come into us, we get referrals from the schools and from CCAC. So if they are unable to help the clients or the adolescents, they come to us because sometimes their appointments are very long. So that's when we take over. And from there, if we need help, we go back to CCAC and we have this wonderful relationship. We also go into the schools, like I say, and we have a great relationship with our schools and our counselors in the schools, as well as our school nurse. And we are able to, through this network, help suicide prevention and all kinds of other things like drug addiction, things like that. So I just wanted to put that out there as one of our primary preventions because I noticed it wasn't mentioned.
Thank you very much. All right, I want to thank our panel for leading us in this robust discussion. And I want to thank you for being such an attentive and participative audience. And with that, I will turn the microphone back over to a committee member.
Again, I want to say thank you to our child and adolescent team. At this time, we're going to have a 5-minute break, and I mean literally 5 minutes because we have 2 more panel discussions that we want to get through today. So if you need to use the bathrooms or if you need to get some water, now is the time. I'm going to put on my timer. So in 5 minutes, we are going to be back here. And like I said, we have 2 more panels. So if you need to use the bathroom, you can do that now. Grab some water, but we will be back here in 5 minutes.